What's up, guys? Back again with another video. In this video, I wanted to talk about how narcissists are psychologically disturbed individuals that have the ability to present themselves as normal functioning people. Okay? Excuse me. Now, one of the reasons why so many people tend to fall for the narcissist act is because narcissists are very good at presenting themselves as socially correct people, okay? Typically, with a narcissist, they're usually really good at adhering to our society's social norms, okay? So when you initially meet a narcissist, chances are they're going to be really nice, really friendly, really conversational, really attentive, okay, and just really receptive to everything you say, So when you start having a conversation with a narcissist, they're going to listen to everything you have to say, and they're going to respond in a way that makes it seem like they understood what you're saying, And, because of that, it tricks a lot of people into thinking that the narcissist is a mentally stable person, because with the narcissist, when you have a conversation with them, they're usually going to be really in tune with everything you have to say. And they're going to respond in a way that makes it seem like they're listening to every word, And because of that, it's going to trick you into thinking that they're a mentally stable person. Even though realistically, it's actually the complete opposite. When you start to get to know a narcissist on a personal level, you're going to realize that this person is actually very psychologically disturbed. And, to the point where there's really no point of return, But at least in the beginning, when you first get to know a narcissist, they're going to seem like very mentally stable people. They're not going to seem like psychologically disturbed individuals. And so because of that, it tricks a lot of people into thinking that the narcissist is a good person, And what's really fucking scary about this is the fact that I would say 9 times out of 10 people that meet the narcissist, like literally 9 times out of 10, most of those people are actually really going to like the narcissist, because as I've emphasized in the past, when you initially meet a narcissist, chances are they're going to be very charming, very charismatic, very conversational. They're not going to give off the impression that they're a psychologically disturbed person, And it's not until you start to get to know them on a personal level that you'll actually realize that that's actually who they very much are, But when you first meet them, they're not going to present themselves in that manner. So because of that, a lot of people tend to fall for the narcissist act. And, I would say with a narcissist, there's always going to be a consensus of people that like the narcissist compared to dislike the narcissist, if that makes any sense. Like the majority of people in the narcissist's life are usually going to like them rather than dislike them. And there's actually only going to be a very few people, or a very few amount of people, that actually dislike the narcissist, okay? Usually that's either going to be their victims or family members of those victims, at least in my experience, And obviously, I understand that there may be exceptions to this, But I would say, generally speaking, there's usually only going to be a very few people, or a very few amount of people, that dislike the narcissist. Okay? And because of this, it tends to put the victim in a very dangerous position, because the majority of people in the narcissist's life, or the majority of people in the narcissist's life usually like the narcissist. So if there's somebody who the narcissist is mistreating, um, it'll put that person in a very dangerous position, because it gets to the point where, like, if you're the victim of narcissistic abuse, you're kind of put in this position where you're forced to choose between the lesser of two evils. You can either allow the narcissist to continue abusing you without anybody noticing it, which obviously I think all of us can agree that's a horrible position to be in, and that's not the right decision. So you can do that, or you can choose to call out the narcissist, or take some action in the situation. But the problem with that is, if you end up calling out the narcissist, a lot of people are probably going to look at you sideways and not understand your side of the situation. Like, they're not going to understand your positioning in the matter. Because to a lot of people, the narcissist is nothing but a generous, kind person. A lot of people are adamantly convinced that the narcissist, or a lot of people that meet a narcissist, are usually going to be adamantly convinced that the narcissist is a good-hearted, kind person. And so if you choose to call this person out and, attempt to expose the narcissist to other people, more often or not, a lot of people aren't going to see your side of the story. They're not going to understand where you're coming from. And this tends to put the victim in a very dangerous position, because a lot of the times, like, the victim won't even have any proof. They won't have any proof or evidence that the narcissist, or what the narcissist is doing, And so because of that, it tends to put the victim in a very dangerous position, And so this is why narcissists are so dangerous. They're basically like evil people who have the ability to portray themselves as angels, And the majority of people that come in contact with the narcissist are going to be adamantly convinced that this is actually the case. There's usually only going to be a very few amount of people that actually see the narcissist for who they actually are. And it's really scary. It's a really scary position to be in, because, like I said, like, more often or not, like, somebody who's being victimized by the narcissist won't even have any proof or evidence that this is actually happening. Because typically the damage that a narcissist will do is usually very insidious. It's usually they'll usually do small things over time that eventually start adding up into one very detrimental thing, if that makes any sense. And so, it's a very dangerous position to be in, because if you attempt to expose the narcissist, chances are a lot of people aren't going to understand your situation. I would say more often or not, like, if you try to expose the narcissist, like, a lot of people are probably going to look at you sideways and not understand your side of the story. And so, it's a very scary position to be in. Because, with narcissists, to a lot of people, they seem like very normal, functioning people who have a heart of gold, And the narcissist usually isn't going to reveal their true colors unless they're behind closed doors where they know they can get away with it, And it's really scary, it's a very, very frightening position to be in. And, as I think I've talked about this before, but typically, the narcissist will usually be very selective about who they target. Typically they'll only have like a couple people who they'll choose to victimize. And then the rest of the people that they come in contact with, they'll usually be very kind and generous to. Okay? And the thing about narcissists is they like to have allies. They like to have people who who are going to potentially have their back in a situation of need, because the narcissist knows that what they're doing is wrong. They know that their hands are dirty and that they could potentially be exposed for what they're doing, and so what they'll do is they'll usually, and I think I've talked about this before, but what they'll do is they'll usually have a lot of casual relationships with people. Typically, it's going to be people who they know, but not on a personal level. So it could be like friends of friends. It could be friends of family, constituents, some type of acquaintances. Just anybody who they don't have a personal relationship with. Okay? And the purpose of developing this relationship is to have people that potentially are going to have the narcissist back, okay? Or to have people in the narcissist's life that would potentially vouch for the narcissist if the narcissist was in a situation of need, if that makes any sense, okay? And it's kind of a hard thing to explain because at the end of the day, like, a lot of people aren't really going to understand it unless they were actually the victims of narcissistic abuse. But at least in my experience, this is something that narcissists love to do, okay? They love to develop casual relationships with people so they can have allies just in case they end up putting themselves in a detrimental predicament, if that makes sense. So, yeah, in a nutshell, narcissists have this ability to present themselves as normal functioning people. And so because of that, a lot of people end up falling for the narcissist bullshit. And it ends up tricking a lot of people into thinking that the narcissist is actually a good person, when realistically it's actually the complete opposite. And so, yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to discuss. If you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely feel free to comment below. I'm also going to put my email unless you have any, if you have any questions or personal questions or anything like that. But yeah, I definitely plan to drop more videos in the future. I hope this was helpful. Sometimes I have a difficult time explaining what I want to say. So if you guys don't understand what I'm talking about, please feel free to ask. And I'd be more than happy to try to further my explanation. But anyway, I hope you found this helpful, and I will see you next time. Peace.